Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tournament Leakfinding. Today is in the first one, the Hot 75. I promised I would look at a normal speed structure next. So this is the big 162. As you can see, this was played in May of 2013. This was a part of a week where I also got third in a scoop event for like second in a scoop event for like 62,000. I had been having kind of a break even year up to that point in 2013, and I think this week led me to like a 200k finish to the rest of the year or something. So this is a very fond tournament of mine, and I actually don't remember like literally anything of it. So I'm gonna be looking through all of the hands, and again, the point of this video is to go back in time and see if I was maybe doing things better back then, and trying to evaluate my play objectively through the lens of myself as a player who I feel like I'm better now than I was back then, and I just want to analyze things with you guys. So at the start, we're going to be looking over hands that I V-pipped, so voluntarily put money into the pot. This is just to kind of save time. Well, not to save time, but just like it's just a more efficient use of our time, which is limited here on Earth. And then as we go on to the final stages, we will be looking at every hand. So I have 4x here with Queen Jack of Hearts. I don't recommend this. I talk about this in a lot of my older videos, but your open size generally should be tied to how wide you want your range to be in the spot. And I generally play wider ranges. Like, I'm very happy opening Queen 10 suited here without really strong players on the button and cutoff. I think a good range for me here in the spot is I would open like 7-8 suited plus, any pocket pair, and any suited Broadway, including like Jack 9 suited plus, and then like Ace Jack off and like King Queen off. And I wouldn't do that if really good players were in the later positions here. So for example, Sar is a really good regular. If he was on the button or something, then I would play tighter. Okay, it looks like I'm playing a 4x strategy. I don't really recall ever doing that in my life, so I'm not really sure why I would do that. My HUD stats in this tournament are for this hand history only. I've created a special Hold'em Manager database, so I'm not sure if there's too much value in showing player stats. Here we have around 80 big blinds. I think this is a standard call, especially versus a 3x. 3 bets from the big blind theoretically should be very strong and very polarized, which means that you shouldn't be 3-betting hands like, for example, King Jack suited out of the big blind, because that's not a polarized 3-bet. Polarized refers to having like 2 poles, one at the high end, which would be like aces, kings, queens, ace, king, and then one pole would be at the low end, which would be hands like 3-5 suited, like hands that won't get you into trouble. Because when you 3-bet someone, they're going to call you with a range that is not polarized, which means they're going to call you with hands that have middle to top end values, such as king queen suited, pocket tens, ace queen offsuit. And so what happens if you 3-bet a strategy that's not polarized, which is like king jack suited, you often end up dominated by hands that call you. Whereas if you 3-bet a strategy that's polarized, like aces and kings versus like 4-5 suited, then when you do get called, you won't get in trouble. So that's like a theory or whatever. The second reason that you should be really polarized when you 3-bet out of the big blind is because theoretically, especially once antes kick in, your natural propensity should be to call most or all of your range from the big blind because of the pot odds you're getting. So when you forsake your pot odds and choose to reopen the action pre-flop, it implies you have a very strong hand. And you don't want to imply you have a very strong hand when you have an upper middle hand, such as king 10 suited or something. So for those reasons, I think this is generally a call unless the guy's very loose. And I think if the guy's very loose, he generally won't be playing a 3x strategy. So, and if I was 3-bet here, I'd make it more like 360 here. So, not a huge fan of that. Turning off whole cards. I come along here. I don't. Oh wait, this is a limp actually. It's not an open. Okay, so yeah, this is mandatory. Come along. You could consider leading here. Generally, in a limp pot, the big blind and the small blind will have the best nut combinations here, such as 4-5 offsuit, 3-6 offsuit, 6-8 offsuit. We have all those hands in our range, and these guys don't. So this is a spot where you can definitely try and pressure everyone, if you really want to. This guy's a fish. This limp is pretty thin, not too good. So, yeah. Okay, I call pocket fives here from the hijack versus the min raise. I think this is good. I think this is one of the drawbacks to min raising under the gun, and why I'm not a fan of it. When you 3x here, my call with fives becomes way less profitable, and as a corollary of that, if you 2.5x, then calls, especially with hands like pocket twos, become like way less profitable. Calls with hands like 5-6 suited become way less profitable. So, not a fan of his strategy there. Do like his c-bet sizing. These will all be pretty standard. Nowadays I min-raise the button, but back then I was using custom presets for Table Ninja software that I use to kind of set my bet sizings up to be slightly over minimum. I think I was a lot more anal back then. So generally this is going to be a 3-bet. You can flat call if someone's like a huge nit. So like if you think they open like less than 10% in the spot or something, then you can just go ahead and call. So it's not much to say about that. Clear fold on the flop. Antes kick in. Is a clear open. So I really think this 8 extra chips that I programmed to set up is good here. Like it makes it seem like more than minimum, especially visually. If you look visually, 60 chips comes out as four stacks, and 128 comes out as like this cluttered mess. And I think a lot of like recreational players aren't very good at math, so they just see like visual representations or whatever. Yeah, I would always see bet this today, especially versus a big blind defending range. I think this double barrel is okay, and fold to the donk bet, which is fine. This open's fine depending on how the players are playing, of course. Queen Jack is, from all positions, one of the best hands you can open light. So because of its blocker value, it has like 2 really strong blockers, but it's not really a good hand. So, yep. I think this is just a clear call and clear check down, and he's going to show down 5-6 suited. This opens fine. Generally, if SAR is in the small blind, then that would mean that I don't think the big blind is very good, because that's kind of a thinnish open. It's fine. This jam is fine. Probably the best way to play this hand versus Mehmet Mori, for sure, who's a very good regular. I just had a limp here with aces. Not really my default strategy, but there's a case that could be made that for like sub 20 big blind stacks, you should just always limp aces blind versus blind. There's also a good case to be made that you should always limp aces when antes kick in. If you watch a lot of like good high rollers and stuff coverage play, like I see, a lot of the top players basically in the world like limp re-raising aces from the blinds. I'm assuming they have a good reason for it, especially as a lot of top players these days are trending towards limping their entire range from the small blind once the antes kick in. So yeah, I mean this play is not like bad or anything. I think this play is not too great. I would generally just want to call, and if I was gonna re-raise, I'd make it more like 480 or something. I think people are gonna fold a ton when you do this, so I do get kind of lucky that he wants to continue in the hand, and that's just a dirty cooler pretty much. We move table. Actually, we don't move tables. I guess we just lose Mori and SAR, which is really good. So I know this guy's a fish by this point. I think this bet is good. The sizing's good. Obviously our plan is to, sorry, no obviously, but our plan here is to bet, turns that improve our equity. And I noticed versus like Fisher players, these kinds of really small flop bets have like way more fold equity than they should. So it's a clear call, and I don't mind giving up there. I would nowadays just jam this. So yeah, it's all standard stuff, all good. This guy's a Fisher type. I'm guessing he's not gonna 3-bet anywhere close to enough from the big blind. So you can play all kinds of speculative hands here versus him. I decided to just jam over this flop lead. I think it's okay. I think you don't really want to induce with 9-10 suited high. Like the other play here is to make it, you know, I don't know, like 1100 and then just start firing barrels. But the problem with that is number one, he can jam over your raise, which I mean you have like way more than enough equity to call off. You're actually a favorite versus everything here. But then two, like if he does call and then you bet turn and then he check raises or he donks turn again or something, it's like a harder spot. I think with this specific hand when you have 9-10 high as opposed to something like ace king of clubs or something, where you could raise and then call off versus 9-10 or 6-7 here. If he puts in 1200 into the pot, he definitely has some kind of folding range, and you put in 5800 to win 1200 and you're at an equity advantage over what he calls with, then I think this is probably the best play. I think another good play would be to raise to like 1600 and jam any turn, but that play seems a lot more unwieldy to me. So also versus this specific guy, he's gonna have way more of a big folding range here. So yeah, clear open. Yeah, so Ape Styles, Wizard of Oz, very good regulars. Um, and I actually recognize Apostolos too. He's still around. Poker Pro still around. But yeah, I mean, this is just a standard play or whatever. Win a flip. This is a fine open. This is a fine peel, I guess, but this is gonna happen a lot. So I don't know. This spot's whatever. This would be more read based. It's not always the best. Open kings here. So bet flop sizing pretty chunky. I think it's okay. I would bet more like 12 nowadays. And I would bet more like, like, yeah, I mean, I think 12 is generally the size you would want to bet here. And then I think turn jam is okay because I think turn jam is probably best because we would semi bluff a bunch of aces on the turn. But this sizing is also okay. And he jams, and not a huge fan of his play. I mean, I guess it's okay. I don't really know. This is fine. I do this versus a lot of weaker players who probably fold too much from the big blind. Just make it like really close to minimum. Open king 10 of hearts versus ape styles. So this is good. I actually knew how to check this back then. Actually, I wasn't that bad in May of 2013. I had just had a really big year in 2012 and was still getting coaching from Big Bluffs Inc. and stuff. So I think I was generally, decent. I think I'm basically always good when he does this. I think he has a lot of semi bluffs on the turn, and I do think he should probably follow through with that hand. I think there's a very poor open unless you have like a really specific read that Hattie is like really weak, because generally, you have to get through the rest of the field, but then this guy's gonna feel like compelled to get it in with a lot of hands being so short, so it's not really a good parlay for your money. This open's okay. Again, this open's like trending towards being thinner. Maybe we'll just turn up stats for fun really quick and see how these guys are playing. Yeah, so Ape Styles 24, 12, 11% 3. But Shanking's like a good, competent, aggressive regular. This guy is a good, competent, aggressive regular, it looks like. This guy is really short. He's on 4 big, so he's going to want to stick it in with a wide range, including 5s, I guess. And so, not a huge fan of that open. Okay, but we do move tables, and we have a lot of chips here. This might have been close to the bubble or something. Again, a lot of regulars I recognize. Regular, 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 regular. So not like the softest tournament in the world or whatever. I think there's a pretty good open to be making. Queen 8. Open ace king here. Again, bunch of regulars I recognize. Leakfinding, poker gur, neck break. So yeah. I think there's a check back here. I would check back nowadays. Reason being, the big blind has way more straight and two pair combinations than me, so he can check raise me and put me under a lot of pressure this deep, especially with a hand like the hand I have. Also, I have so many back doors and such good equity here that I like checking back here a lot more. And I do lose that pot, so yeah. This is just a straight up whatever calculation you want to make. Actually, we'll go ahead and model. Okay, so according to Nash, he should be jamming a range of this, ace-8 suited, 9-10 suited, stuff like that. And our call will be profitable to the tune of almost 3 big blinds, which is huge. We can go ahead and adjust some of his hands because I don't see a lot of players like turning up with, hands like this so much in their ranges. So I mean, we can just go ahead and just tighten it up a little bit, and we'll see ace queen off becomes much thinner, just slightly over a big blind. But then here's the other really important thing, right? Nash is assuming he's open jamming aces, queens, kings. I think generally I'll leave an ace king off, but I'll take out ace king suited. So I mean, if you look at the way a lot of regulars play the spot, like if he's definitely doing that, which a lot of them do, they don't open jam like aces for sure, then suddenly you're looking at a spot where your EV basically doubles. So I think this is generally a call versus like everybody. The only time this might not be a call is if like maybe you have a really specific read that this guy just doesn't open jam like anything except for like the top premium offsuit hands or something, which would be like something like this. Although to be honest, I can't really imagine someone like not shoving ace jack off if they're shoving this kind of range. So versus this range, ace queen off is like really thinly profitable. I'm confident not including aces and kings into people's ranges because I really don't think they open shove them. But I mean, you could come up with a range maybe like this, which seems like kind of unrealistic or whatever. But even versus this range, yeah. So then ace queen would be like slightly losing. So anyways, this is generally a call, and we see with his hand that he had one of those hands that makes a lot of sense. In this spot, with neck break being a good regular, I like to raise more than minimum, just a little bit, just so he doesn't feel as compelled to try and stop and go. Poker gur 3-bets me here. It's gonna be easy fold, and he had ace king off. Poker gur I think is a good regular. I don't really know how he plays, but I think we're gonna play a lot of this tournament with him. So I'm going to really quickly pull up his HUD sets. Okay, so 26-22 over 10 hands, 21% 3-bet. He makes it pretty chunky here. I mean, I wouldn't mind a 4-bet here if neckbreak had folded. I wouldn't even mind. I mean, jamming seems a bit much because we have over 40 bigs. He sized his 3-bet really well. A lot of people make it too small in these spots where you could peel. Yeah, I mean you could click it here. You could make it like 69 or whatever you want. 67, but yeah, because he probably does a lot of his 3-betting from the small blind. So it's like a field-based spot or whatever. But in this case, he had it, and we got lucky that neck break had ace jack of hearts, which I would be really happy to get in his spot. Here too, I would make it slightly more than min. Here too, and the Leakfinding rejams ace 10 suited. Not a huge fan of these kinds of rejams with no fold equity, unless like you have a read and you think someone's really loose from under the gun. Generally, I think calling is probably a better play. We fade the flush draw. My size bigger here. This is good to almost 3x, and probably intending to just shove over a bet. This is a good raise by Poker. Good bet by me. Good raise by him. And I just decided to fold. This is good. This is good. His open's definitely a bit loose. It's Chad Brown, by the way, RIP. I'm pretty sure that's his actual screen name. So it's a bit sad to see that there. Yeah, I mean, this guy's 7-0 over 27 hands. He seems like a nit. These three are all nits, so I think this open is more than fine. So we gun it. I mean, I don't think it's more than fine. I don't think it's very good. I want to make that today. Okay, 3-5 suited. Yeah, I think this is a mandatory call versus two players. And we're going to see Pearl Jammer play a hand here. Looks like he was doing the turn lead even back here. I would have binked this straight. Not a fan of. I don't understand this play at all. Generally, I feel like if I don't understand a play, it's pretty bad because I try and see the merits of everything. I think this call. Wait, is he holding? Okay, he's holding a club, so his call's okay, but just not a fan of that. This open's not too great considering how short the small blind is, although he's been a huge nit. Generally, I wouldn't open either of these hands. I like this bet sizing a lot. It looks like I'm just trying to fire barrels here. He's calling me down, which is interesting because this is a really bad card for his range. So I'm inclined to believe he has like a straight or two pair here when he calls like this, and then maybe like a Jack 10 or something. But I think his range is generally pretty strong, so I don't really like shoving here. I think shoving is way too strong versus his range, which can't really be nuts. So I would bet like 12k here. Yeah, I like that a lot. And he had 8-9, so kind of unlucky for him. You could definitely make the argument here when you get triple barreled on this run out that, you know, I don't know, maybe not. Yeah, no, I don't really think he can fold. Okay, king queen, protect the pot, standard call. And there's really no reason to bet anywhere, and he does get in a thin value bet on the river, which is good by him. I think you can probably just fold here. He's betting 2750 to get a side pot of like maybe 1200 chips or something like that, like really low side pot. Maybe it's even a side pot of just like 1k. So unless he's betting like queen jack and queen 10 like this, I think this is just an easy fold. Okay, I think there's generally a clear call. We're getting 30 1.65 to 1 with a suited king. I mean, I don't even need to model this one. It's just a clear call. This is fine as a call. I think it's probably best as a call. Maybe a small ISO. I could make it like 7.2k here or something. Yeah, I think a small ISO here is actually better than just calling. So I wish I had done that. Hold there. New table. Ace king suited. Clear call versus Renrad. Good shove by him. This opens fine. Take a look. I'm pretty sure better than Phil is an aggressive regular. So is Kabira. Yeah, nowadays I actually wouldn't open this hand. I think between these three players, they're probably 3-betting combined around 40%. And then you throw in the fact that he has a calling range from the small blind of like at least 10%. He has a calling range from the big blind of at least like 25%. So I don't think this open is necessarily too profitable. And that's just generally based on my read that I think better than Phil in particular is going to be 3-betting, you know, over 3-betting in this spot. This is a terrible open. Not sure why I'm doing this. This is really bad. With how short Coco is, this is just not good at all. and you do see I get 3 bet. This opens a little better, but again, I would have folded all 3 of those hands, and I actually ended up losing money on these opens because generally when you make an open with antes in the pot, you need to win like 2 out of every 3 to break even. If you open one and then fold one, you've kind of broken even, although it does make your image looser for when you do pick up a hand. Problem with a lot of these MTT players is they don't have the patience to wait for a hand, so they just keep trying to open and they just keep getting like, pooped on or whatever. So I'm 1 out of 3 here, but I could have easily been 0 out of 3, which means that I just, raise folded like um like 1/7 or whatever of my stack away. Just being silly. Alright, there's a clear call. Suck out. I think this open's generally pretty good. Again, this guy being so short on the button, but this might be getting deep in the tournament, and people might just be playing weak. So that opens generally finer. There's a clear open versus everybody. Would have probably gotten that in versus Phil. It's a clear open. There's also a clear open. We see better than Phil 3-betting here. I think this 3-bet's generally pretty polarized. I would call here a lot. I don't think he has it, and he does fold. So I mean, you can see like he's trying to 3-bet off like a 23 or 24 big blind stack, and I think people who try and do stuff like that are generally the kinds of players that I would mark as like pink, because they're like overly batterly and stuff. His 3-bet here costs himself way more than it costs me, because I put in 2 big blinds out of like a 50 big blind stack, and he puts in like 4.5 big blinds out of like a 22 or whatever big blind stack. So this is why you shouldn't be like overly opening though in spots like these, because people are just gonna be trying to do things. This is an exploitative play I would make, where I'm 3-bet calling versus someone who opens too much. You don't want this to be like in your playbook too much, because it leads to spew when people aren't that loose, but I think it's fine versus a lot of players. Open this. I mean, I feel like my image is probably out of line at this point, but who knows. I would call here. I would spike call him here generally. Getting almost 2-1. So I'll see if I do that. Yeah, I do that. And he had 9s and we lose. This guy just moans in chat all the time. I have no clue where he's at these days, but he's definitely a confirmed moaner. Not a huge fan of this open, although I think it's okay. And this is a clear call for me here. With an ace, we run good. Clear open. I mean, these guys seem to be letting me get away with quite a bit. I think this open's fine as well. Blanco Negro, really good player. Really good player. Really good player. So this looks like a pretty tough table. This guy has like 337, so he has a ton of chips here. I think there's a clear call. I decided to bluff raise this. Not a huge fan of the sizing. I would rather make it more. I think the sizing looks kind of bluffy. I'd rather make it more like, just click it over. So I guess the next size over would be like 12.8 or so. Looks more natural to me. This plays okay. Just banking on, hitting back doors and stuff. Oh wow, this is actually gonna be a huge hand. So I check back when the flush comes in and the gutter. You could argue that this is probably a bet, given the range we're repping when we raise flop. I think when he calls flop, his range is gonna be, if he's good, he'll have like slow plays. But generally, I think a lot of people here are gonna re-click their Jack X, and their flush draws probably. So I think when he calls, his range is like really weak. I think he has like ace highs and pairs of 6s and like pocket 8s and stuff. Which, if that is correct and you're going to range someone like that, then you should definitely bet this turn, because they just can't continue. And then maybe give up if a club rolls off. Anyways, I binked the straight. He overbet jams. I actually have vague memories of this hand. This was a terrible play by him. He turned 2 pair into a bluff for some reason. Well, okay, not really a bluff, more like a value bet. But 7-8, I mean Queen 8, Queen King, Jack 10, two tens, Jack 9, flushes. I mean, I think this is a pretty big value cut. So yeah, I guess he was just going for value. Never mind. This isn't a bluff. I thought it was a 4 card straight for some reason, but it's not. He decided to just go for a max value, I guess. Thinking my range was, I guess, like a jack or so. I don't know. I don't think this plays very good. I think he should have bet like 18 or so and just try and value bet like a jack or 9, full to a raise. But I got really lucky. That hand is really an example of like getting really lucky. Situationally. So Kabira here decides to 3-bet me. I would have probably called here, but I folded and he was light. As you play more and more, you start to get like I guess an intuitive feel for when people are being light in spots. So I lead this flop. I don't like it. I wouldn't do this today. It's kind of the same concept, I guess, as the 3-betting discussion at the start of the video. You don't really want to like add middle value hands to your leading range because it makes it very easy for your opponent to play back at you. So, not a fan. And they chop the ace jack. Yeah, I guess this check raise is fine. Seems okay. Check seems fine as well. I like the way Revenge played the hand. He seems to be a pretty good player. Make a small 3-bet here. I don't really 3-bet to this sizing these days anymore. I make it more like 20k here. Being like 30, 35 big blinds deep or something, I'll make it 2.5 as a default. This 3-bet's okay. He opens around 4. He opens pretty wide from later positions and folds a good bit. And I'm guessing my image was, decently solid there. So don't hate that. I'm gonna hate this though. Yeah, this is not a good 3-bet. I would never do this today. This 3-bet sizing is also too small. I think you should make it like 25-5 here if you are gonna make this play. But I mean, this is just not a sensical play at all, considering where it is in our range and stuff like that. So, and I do get punished for it. I seem to have had way more heart, but kind of in a bad way than I do now, just because I've corrected all this like stupid stuff from my system. Flat aces here out of the small blind. I think this is good. Blanco tends to be really loose. We'll quickly pull up his stats. But he's running 17-14 here. He's not like too crazy. He's one of the best players in the world by now. I'm not sure how good he was back then, but I'm assuming he must have been like pretty good. Okay, we flop a board that is pretty good to lead on, but I would have, if I was gonna lead this, which I think is good, I would lead more like 12.8, and I guess that's fine. Although that's like one of the worst turn cards in the deck. Kabira here opens. Maybe I'll pull up HUD stats now. Yeah, I'll just pull up HUD stats now. Kabira is opening super wide from these positions. He's just super wide in general, so I think this is a clear shove. Good. I'm gonna flip. 6-9 suited. So apparently, oh, okay, that actually hurt Kabira's stack a lot. I'm getting 1.73 to 1 here. I don't like this at all if I did ISO. He shoved 9-10, which is terrible. My ISO doesn't seem too good. We'll go ahead and model. So this play nets negative 3,000 chips. I mean, this is really bad. There's just no real way to put it. This is a terrible ISO. If I was to widen Kabira's range to include like 9-10 offsuit, which would be like something like this, I guess, it would still be pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, there's just no real justification for this. And it's actually come to my attention that this is like the final 2 tables or so. So I'm actually going to turn off the VPIP stuff and just get through to the final table. Because I think it would be interesting to watch like Blanco and stuff. Alright, so we are moving back in time. We're starting from the Queen 8 offsuit hand, and we're just gonna look at how the chips went across the table. I think this should be a fold here for Blanco, but it looks like he called and won. But Parnas picked up some chips. Generally, we're just looking for like stack fluctuations and stuff. So yeah, and I have turned on whole cards just so we can see how people are playing. This was the Ace Jack versus 8 Jack, and where I led flop. Not much, not much seems to be going on. People just kind of seem to be playing their cards. This guy limps aces under the gun, so he's probably a fish. This is a hand where I decided to 3-bet the 2-10 suited. Ill faded, not good. Blanco picked up a pot here with no showdown. So Kabira moved down a little bit, I guess. Opened this and folded to a reshove. This would be an okay spot to 3-bet, but Blanco hasn't been like super out of line here, so I'm fine with not doing it. Folded to a 3-bet here. Won that pot with aces. And then here's the pot with 5. So actually not too much going on here, but I will just, keep things going. So this ISO was pretty tight. I mean, pretty bad. I don't know why I did it, to be honest. And then Kabir's going to jam this button with Queen 7, which is okay. And then suck out Blanco there. I think this is a fold. Basically, there's 2 reshove stacks played by good players now. So, and I think revenge seems pretty good. So, yeah, I would call here nowadays. Especially with the way this guy's been playing. I think this is a clear pre-flop call. So, not a fan of that. I like this 3-bet way more than the one before. So, yeah. And I think this is generally best. You could check raise if you think someone's gonna jam on you a lot or whatever, but yeah. Just quickly look at how this guy's been playing. So his stats seem to have changed. I mean, he seems to be pretty loose and stuff, so I like that 3-bet a good bit. I'll fold this button. I think I'm gonna get jammed on too much. Although Kabir doesn't seem to 3-bet too much, so I guess it's okay. Yeah, I mean, this guy's really tight, and then Kabir doesn't seem to 3-bet too much, so I guess it's okay. This guy limps under the gun. This might be the final 2 tables, it looks like. Maybe not. Yeah, Kabir is still just keeping it loose. So, I mean, our terrible ISO there just gave him a lot of room or whatever. So I had to cold 4 here. Not a huge fan of this play. I think swing time's a fish, and I think fish generally have like really strong 3-betting ranges in the spot. His 3-bet looks really strong to me, so I think he has a range of like jacks plus and ace king here. So I'll fold this if I was playing today. But he had actually pocket 7s, which is actually pretty crazy. Yeah, I would fold here actually. I think this 3-bet looks really strong. I would not expect to see 7s in his range there. So, yeah. Although maybe that's a little too much to draw upon with only, 3 or 4 hands on someone or whatever. Says get in here, Blanco doubles. This is a clear open. Centipede's a regular who's still around as well. Clear open, clear call. He rejammed ace-5 off, so I think our read on him rejamming light was correct. It's a clear open. This is an okay open, but not like super great or anything. I'm pretty sure Progray 69 is really aggressive, competent regular. So yeah, we have like 2 aggressive regs here. Centipede played way more aggressively back in the day, I think. So I mean, we have like just a lot of aggressive and good regulars. So I think ace-6 off is a clear fold. I think this is a fold. We can go ahead and model this one. Okay, so here Progray should be shoving. this wide of a range, and against this range, king queen is definitely going to be profitable by about the difference between a small blind and a big blind. Now we're going to make some adjustments to his range. So a lot of players don't shove like as wide as Nash indicates, so I don't think he's shoving king 7. He might shove king 8. I don't know. I'll just split the difference and just cut, a few of these hands or whatever. Because I don't see a lot of people turn up with hands like that too much, but sometimes they do or whatever. But then we can take out like aces, kings, queens, and ace king suited from the top end of his range, and then maybe take out just a few of the suited aces. I'm not really sure. I think this spot differs based on a lot of different people, but a lot of people just aren't like super good at ranges like this, so they don't really feel comfortable like shoving X amount of big blinds with this is more than like 10 big blinds. This is like around almost 15 big blinds, so I think a lot of people do get uncomfortable with it. Some people don't though, and this call is like generally going to be between a small blind and a big blind of value. And so I think once you factor in like ICM and stuff and how hazy you might think someone's range is in a spot, then folding is absolutely fine. So yeah, I mean it's hard to say. You could call here if you wanted to, but yeah, I would min raise like any two versus this guy's big blind, slightly over min or whatever, because he's just too tight. So red ink is gonna lose a big pot here. We're just gonna stick this in. Jack 10 suited versus ace king off. On a flop like this. Yeah, I mean it's all right. I think pro gray should generally call here, and I think the c bet's okay. So yeah, it's like whatever. It's okay. Okay, I think these are all just clear folds. Obviously, I would just shove this. I think there's a clear open on the button. Revenge is gonna jam queen 5 suited here, which is a good shove, and he's gonna win versus a7. I have a lot of chips in this. It looks like clear open here. We might lose Blanco here, it looks like. Blanco's going to jam a6, mega standard, and lose to kings. So, unlucky for him. This might be like 12 left or so. Clear open here. I check back here. Yeah, I think checking back here is okay with ace high. I would do that today if I was doing it today. If I was playing today. Looks like I opened 3-8 suited here. I'm not a huge fan of this open for like pretty obvious reasons. Kopchuk looks like super tight or whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't really do this if I was playing today. So I think this open would be better, although Pro Gray fights back a lot more. Okay, we flop a straight draw here on a trip board. We're kind of vulnerable to check raises here. I do like a check back. I think it's fine. I like this flat call here. Seems good. And then this guy bets. I think he has like a boat a lot here, so I would. His bet's pretty interesting actually. Not like the hugest fan of it. I think you should generally just check and then fold to a shove probably. But maybe he didn't want to get bluffed off or something. Kind of annoyed by that hand, to be quite frank. Okay, so Kopchuk here seems to be a huge nit. There's still arguments for a call here, but I don't really hate folding. I don't think it's like super bad. I think there's a clear open. I think there's a clear open. 7-9 is just obviously a much better hand than 3-8 suited. This would be a shove. Kopchuk seems to be hitting the spot a decent bit. I think this opens okay. I think if you were going to open 3-8 suited before, you should probably open this on the direct button. I think this 3-bet's fine. I would size it a little bigger today, like again maybe 2.5x or so. Get jammed on, so sliding a little bit. If I didn't take the king 10 spot, I don't mind the king 6 of hearts spot either. And Revenge seems to be playing pretty well. Progress 69 here, 3 bets. I expect him to take the spot a decent bit. I think you can honestly shove here a lot. You can 4-bet, click it to like 69, 70 or whatever, and then fold or shove. But I would generally fight back there, probably. Okay, we lose another player here, it looks like. Yeah, this guy was really short. This call's fine. He's gonna win. This 3-bet's like way outside of the recommended guidelines, so I'm not a huge fan of it here. Although if people have like really exploitable numbers, I guess you can just like go for it. But yeah, I mean, it looks like I had like way more heart kind of in a bad way than I did today. I would use something more like 6-7 suited here now. I think 4-7 suited is like way too low. But I have like a good history in my career of overrating low, like really low suited connectors. I think this opens bad too. And I'm glad to see at least that like my terrible open strategy is actually costing me money, because it's good to reinforce that. I would never fold this today, so I'm not sure why I'm folding there. I think there's an open. I think you should just go any 2 on the button here. And I'm going to show down Jack 2 off, so it's not too good for my image. This opens okay. And I think that's going to bust the final table bubble. So in the next part, we will go over the final table and exhaustively analyze every hand. So this was the first part of my big 162 run. I would say general, insights I have is I was just a bit more reckless back now. I was making some plays that might work well in MTTs. Maybe I should fit them a bit more in. But I think 3-bets with hands like 4-7 suited, opens with hands like 3-8 suited. That's more something that like MTTers do. Because sometimes just bad aggression, works out, especially deep in tournaments. But it's not really something that I want to teach any of my students to do, and it's not really something I want to do myself. So I would have just liked to see, just shading upwards in my ranges to where like, instead of 4-7, maybe I go with like 5-7 or 6-7, which still seem like pretty awfully thin or whatever. But I think a lot of good players or whatever who watch this would agree that, some of these plays aren't like too good. And I didn't really win too much on them either. So yeah, there's not much to say about that, I guess. But anyways, yeah, so we're going to go into the second part with the final table run. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro for deucescrack.com.